From the Russ Center for Media in downtown Cape Girardeau, welcome to Focus on Southeast, a program on issues, events, and people impacting the campus of Southeast Missouri State University. I'm Dan Woods with KRCU Public Radio. On today's show, we'll be talking about the Redhawks' recent appearance in the NCAA tournament with SEMO Athletic Director Brady Barke. And later, Dr. Joel Rhodes from Southeast Department of History and Anthropology will share some of the highlights in the university's history as it celebrates its sesquicentennial year. If you like solar eclipses, you will have two opportunities to experience one: a partial eclipse in October and a total eclipse in April 2024. To help us all get ready, I'm joined by Brenda Newbern, Executive Director of the Cape Girardeau Convention and Visitors Bureau. She's here to give us all the details on the Missouri Solar Eclipse Expo that's happening this summer. Hi, Brenda.
Hello, Dan.
So we get a practice with the partial to get ready for the big one in April, right?
Exactly.
So tell us about this Eclipse Expo. It's in July, I believe.
Yes, the Eclipse Expo will be held on Friday and Saturday, July 21st, 22nd. And it's going to be on the campus of the university. The meeting event will be tailored so that you can come and talk to Fred Espinack, the Mr. Eclipse, and there will be a panel of others. People from NASA will be there. There will be someone there from our meteorologist. The Division of Tourism is going to supply someone, and we will be able to ask questions and find out what are you going to experience during the eclipse. That's on Friday. On Saturday, there will be over 80 vendors in the Show Me Center, and they will have all kinds of expeditions for people to experience. You know, children will be able to talk with and do some activities. There's going to be vendors there selling things. There will be some of the astronomy companies selling telescopes, and you will have the opportunity to view out of telescopes if the weather permits.
That sounds kind of like a fun time.
It will be.
So this is a chance, if you're into astronomy and eclipses, you can kind of geek out a little bit at this, it sounds like.
Most definitely. And you know, when you're not, you get to learn a lot about those things that you normally don't get to experience. I mean, you can find the science of it and how animals react and just how things really change for you. And some people even have a spiritual experience.
Yeah. This is a big deal, I know, for our area. Talk a little bit about the tourism aspect of this and what it means for our area, hotels and restaurants and that kind of thing.
I will tell you that we've already had people calling about getting hotel rooms, and the hotels can't start booking until April the 8th for 2024. There's an expectation that there will be 1.3 million people traveling to try and get to places that are on the line of totality. For us, that's just going to be a major economic impact. I mean, we will have people staying in our hotels, camping at campgrounds, but they will be coming here in order to view, because Cape Girardeau is going to be on totality. We have 4 minutes and 56 seconds of totality. So it will have a major economic impact for us. Our hotels will be filled and our restaurants will be overrun with people.
So we had an eclipse in 2017. What was that like? Does it help us sort of give an idea what's going to happen, I guess, in 2024?
We did, I mean, of course, our economic impact numbers were great. We were looking at more people staying. Every hotel was filled to capacity. So therefore, we can expect that same kind of impact. I don't have the dollar amount for you, but it is always going to be great. And when I look at our hotel motel tax receipts, we've been doing great.
Yeah. Tell us about this Missouri Eclipse Task Force. Is that just a group of folks in Missouri? Who's in that group, and what do you all do in that task force?
That group comes from the university's Astronomical Society. It comes with Trish Ertzfeld from the Perryville Tourism Office, and there's Don Fickens. He was actually on the tourism group last year when they had it in 2017. So he's a part of it. We have Bruce Skinner with the SEMO University. And so we're all just together. It's just a group of us that came together and said we need to do this and get people ready. And out of that task force, the Expo came out.
And the Expo is free, I guess, until the day of. How does that work again?
If you go out there now to SEMO Eclipse Expo.org, you can actually get tickets free. If you show up at the door, it's going to be $3.
So still not much
So
to
it's
get to
still not
enjoy
much,
everything.
but we would really like for people to go out and buy their tickets now so we know what to expect. And so we can make sure that their experiences are going to be positive experiences by knowing how many people may attend.
So I guess the Friday event, is there anything during the day Friday or just a panel? Because, you know, I mean, you're going to have school kids out of school in the summer. Are schools still going to try to do any kind of coordination to get students to come? Do you have any insight on that?
At this time, we don't. Working with some of the school science teachers and trying to figure out if there's something that they can do during that time. But at this time, we don't have any expectations, and there's nothing during the day planned, only the panel discussion that evening.
Could be a good time for some extra credit to start the school year or something, maybe, right?
You're right, it could be.
So if folks have any questions, what's the best place for them to go to get information as this gets closer to us in July?
Of course, the Eclipse, SEMO Eclipse Expo.org is a great place. You can always contact myself at visitcape.com or through my phone number at 573-335-1631. We'll help you in any way we can.
Fantastic. Brenda, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Dan.
All right, when we come back, we'll be joined by SEMO Athletic Director Brady Barke. This is Focus on Southeast. We'll take a break and be right back.
Life is complicated enough. Why worry about what to do with your extra car? Skip the costs of maintaining it, storing it, insuring it, or renewing registration. Car repairs? Forget about it. Here's one easy solution to your car problem. Donate it to a nonprofit. It's fast, free, tax deductible, and if you donate, you're going to feel incredible knowing you're supporting a great cause. Interested? Just call this toll-free number or donate online. Thank you.
Prescription drug pricing points to corporate
Freedom of the press is about your right to know.
and Clark sheer athleticism.
It's about your right to be informed.
Ways for the stock market.
Today, there are real threats to press freedom
is reaching residential areas.
and your right to know about the world around us. We must protect our right to know, no matter what kind of news is important to you.
Great question.
Before it's too late, understand the threats. ProtectPressFreedom.org.
Welcome back to Focus on Southeast. March Madness was exciting as always, but maybe more so this year because the Redhawks made it to the big dance. Brady Barke is SEMO's athletic director, and he's here to talk about that and other things happening in athletics. Hey, Brady.
Hey.
It's exciting March for Southeast Missouri State for sure.
Yeah, obviously a really busy one, but for good reason.
Yeah.
And so we'll take that any day.
So kind of walk us through a little bit. I know it was historic, first time since 2000?
Since 2000, 23 years.
What does that mean for what did it mean for the team, for the department? It's huge.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that, you know, especially as it relates to basketball, the NCAA tournament is what puts schools on a map. And so, you know, the opportunity to do something we hadn't done in 23 years and for a period of time, you know, really carry the institution's flag and the region's flag and introduce people to Southeast Missouri and Southeast Missouri State University. And so, you know, really proud of that, the exposure and the recognition. I mean, it's media value that, quite frankly, you couldn't buy. And so, you know, the opportunity to bring that to this region is really special. And that's just aside from all the fun with the actual basketball piece of it, right? It's the rest of it that was really neat too.
Well, to see the guys on CBS being interviewed by them beforehand, and like you said, have CBS here when the announcement was made, we're going to play, all that exposure is just so great to put us, like I said, put us on the map for everybody around the world. Yeah,
and you know, we've had a lot of success across all of our sports, but you don't get the same level of recognition that this provided. And so, you know, this not only allowed us to shine that spotlight on the basketball program, but also at the same time to talk a little bit and bring some attention to all the other successes. And so that really, you know, when you talk about, you know, a rising tide, rising all ships, you know, that's exactly what this does, because it allows us to be able to continue to elevate everyone and everything that's going on. And so just super proud of what they've been able to accomplish.
And that's just one of them. I mean, every sport's been just exceeding by leaps and bounds.
Yeah, we've won, since 2019, we've won 20 championships. and a national championship in gymnastics. And so that is actually every one of our sports programs that we have. And so if we think about that, we think about freshmen that came in at that time that would be graduating here. Theoretically, anyone who came in, they will walk across the stage earning a college degree and having won a championship. And as long as we did our part in preparing them to be ready for whatever's next in their life, I think they walked away from Southeast with a pretty good experience.
Well, yeah, and you talk always about the student success. I mean, success on the court or on the field, wherever, but athletics and academics are great too for all the teams.
Yeah, I mean, we actually just set a record for our best graduation success rate that we've ever had since since the institution started reporting that data to the NCAA about 25 years ago. And so I mean, it really is. It's a special time. We've got great people, coaches and staff that lead and develop these young people, and then obviously we've done a really good job of recruiting quality students to the institution too. And so I'm proud and excited to see what they do then once they leave and go on and are proud alums.
And even with all the wins, and these coaches are still here. We've got all of this great coaching staff that have stayed at Southeast, continue to grow and mentor these young people. That has to be something you're extremely proud of too.
Yeah, it speaks a little bit to the community. I think a lot of people, especially those who have families, have really enjoyed, being a part of this community. But I think it also speaks to a vision of, we're not done yet. This isn't the ceiling. I think a lot of our coaches expect that there's still additional opportunities for them to be able to have even greater success than what we've seen, as hard as that can be to imagine sometimes, that, hey, we're not there yet. And so it's exciting, it pushes you every day. We're all competitors, and you don't get into athletics if you're not.
Right.
And so we're all competitors, and we all want to strive to see, hey, what can we do next? And unfortunately for a lot of us, you win that championship and it's over, and now you're on to figuring out the next one. And you enjoy it for just a little bit of time, and then you keep working. And so I think great things ahead, and it's all fueled by those great people.
And the support of the community. That's always been really strong.
Absolutely. And we heard for a long time, if they win, then we'll support. And so there's definitely been a lot of winning. And we hope people continue to support, because we need it in order to be able to continue to take those next steps and continue to build upon the success we've had. And so, and we've got a lot of stuff going on too that, that Houck project that's going on just up the road is not a small feat, and so that'll be a big one too that we'll need everybody to rally around for us.
And I guess speaking of that, I guess everything on track as far as progress on that?
Yeah, it is. It's really exciting. If people have gone by recently, they've seen it really start to get upright, and so starting to see all of the bleachers and the grandstand be installed, starting to see some of the buildings, the concession stands and restrooms and those things start to be erected as well. And it's all on pace, and we're still expecting that, probably by the 1st of August, they'll be wrapping up that initial phase, and that south grandstand will all be finished, and the turf will be replaced, and the playing surface will be new and ready for the start of the academic year, when soccer and football both open up in there, and should be a lot of fun to welcome people back. We'll have about 4,000 new seats to be able to hold people in, and looking forward to it.
And I guess the first few months when we didn't see much, all that was, I guess, all the underground and all the wiring and all that stuff. So it wasn't much, but now that starting to get the steel's there, you can really tell the difference.
Yeah, really in a hurry, because you're right. At the beginning, it was a lot of the footings and the foundation work that had to go into being able to support a structure. And so once they got all of that work done and started to build, it's really been pretty quick. And so you almost can go by every day or two and see significant progress. And so we've definitely seen an uptick in traffic driving by there in the last several weeks, of people wanting to kind of keep an eye on the progress.
And you go by, every time you go by, there's something new.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yes, it is.
Well, before we go, so many successes, so much more to still do. this has to be good for your recruitment. This has to be good for just a lot of things within your department, right?
Yeah, it is, and I think all of that success builds upon itself, and I think it's good from a recruitment standpoint. We used to be, and you hate to admit this, in a lot of senses, we used to be an institution that was maybe not at the top of someone's list, and we've kind of made our way up those lists to where we're now a place that people are selecting us over other institutions, and that's a lot of fun to win some of those battles. Yeah. But I think too, I think what we want to keep in mind too is that all of that success and all of that exposure, we hope also benefits recruitment, the institution as a whole. And we talked about the national exposure and all of that excitement, and you hope that now somebody that's in St. Louis that's sitting there watching our men's basketball team play on national television that thinks, maybe I'll check out, SEMO, and maybe that'll be a place that I'd be interested in. And so they're not coming here to play, but maybe they want to come and be part of that institution because they learned a little bit more about it through our success. And I think that's a really important role that athletics can play. And in a time that institutions are, fighting for students, it's a really competitive landscape. And so it's helping as much in our recruitment as we hope in, general student body recruitment too.
Well, I guess next time we'll have you back, we'll probably talk about another. You're just going to keep adding to. You got to keep that number. You probably have it just burned into your brain, I would imagine, by now, how many championships.
Yeah, it's fortunately we've been able to continue to raise that year over year, and look forward to continuing to celebrate a few more.
Well, Brady, thanks for being here with us. We appreciate your time.
Absolutely, enjoyed it.
When we come back, Dr. Joel Rhodes will join us to reflect on some of the highlights in the university's history as it celebrates its sesquicentennial year. This is Focus on Southeast. We'll be right back.
Southeast Missouri. Let's try this again. You are Southeast Missouri. You make Southeast Missouri what it is. And Southeast Missouri is who we are. It's in our name. It's in our past. And with you, it's our future. Welcome home.
Welcome back to Focus on Southeast. Southeast Missouri State University kicked off its sesquicentennial year on Wednesday, March 22nd with a big celebration. Dr. Joel Rhodes from the Department of History and Anthropology is here now to reflect on some of the highlights in the university's 150-year history. Hey, Joel.
Thanks for having me, Dan.
Always good to see you. So let's start out just some of the highlights from the university's 150 years that jump out at you as a historian that folks might key in on.
Well, in the spirit of what Brady was saying, putting us on the map, the building of Academic Hall always stands out as one of the most pronounced events, probably the singular most important force in putting the university on the map. And it's really the years that Lewis Houck was the president of the Board of Regents and Washington Dearmont was the president of the university. Those are the most productive years.
Mm-hmm. And is it safe to say that Southeast Missouri State wouldn't have ended up in the location it's in without Lewis Houck?
I think that's, I won't argue with that. And to put some background to this, when the university was founded in 1873, that is a product of an economic development plan that the Republican Party had in the state of Missouri during the Civil War. Mm-hmm. Missouri traditionally is a democratic state. It was in the 19th century, but for a brief period of time during the Civil War, the Republican Party, what historically we refer to as the radical Republicans, and we associate that with Reconstruction, But the Republican Party put the state on a very firm path towards economic development, and one of the center pieces of that was public education. They're the ones that came up with the public education system in the state of Missouri, not only creating a school system that would be state and local taxpayer supported, but also creating normal schools, teachers' colleges, to train those teachers. Now, in this part of the world, in southeast Missouri, they faced some pretty strong headwinds. One was a Southern distrust of public education. That was a Yankee thing. Okay. And also there was some question about where it would be. And up in the Arcadia Valley seemed the most logical, fertile place. And so it was a real struggle in the early 1870s to locate the normal school here. And then, of course, when the lone building, Academic Hall, burnt down in 1902, all of those debates were rekindled.
Right. And Lewis Houck was really instrumental in making sure that when they built Academic, I think you told me before we went on the air that was going to be an anchor. This was going to be the place it was going to be and going to stay.
Right. And the question, the resistance to public education and to having the normal school, that had subsided by 1902. But the pull of taking the normal school away from Cape Girardeau, those rivalries with the Arcadia Valley had never subsided. And so Academic Hall was the lone building at the time. The entire university was housed in that structure, and it was magnificent. If you've ever seen, it's really eclectic Victorian architecture. They were at the time of the fire building Carnahan Hall, what is today Carnahan Hall. And so they were anticipating some growth. But when Academic burned, it put the university in a really precarious position because they were afraid that interests from up north would come in and swoop the university or the teachers' college, the normal school, away. And so Lewis Houck, as the president of the Board of Regents, he preached a gospel of we have to rebuild Academic, we have to build it quickly, and we have to make it permanent. And so the idea was kicked around. They got $30,000 of insurance money. So they could build a building comparable in size to Carnahan Hall, or they could go for bigger fish. And Houck's theory was, let's go for a huge state appropriation and let's build a structure that is so big, so magnificent, that it will end the debate about moving the university once and for all. And that's what they do. They take the $30,000 of insurance money and they build the art building, which is Carnahan's sister building. And then they ask the state of Missouri for $250,000 to rebuild Academic Hall. And to put that into some perspective, that is slightly less than the entire appropriations that the college had gotten from the state in its entire history since 1873. So you're asking the state for a huge and obscene amount of money, but that's Houck's philosophy. I mean, that's Houck's strategy. It's going to be magnificent.
Were they pretty confident that they could get that appropriation?
No, and there was talk amongst the board and the key players that this was foolhardy, that you're going to ask for this amount of money and that's ridiculous and the state will absolutely turn you down and we'll get nothing. So you're really kind of going for broke here. This is a real gamble. And to hedge his bets, which Houck had a way of doing, he talked his good friend R.B. Oliver, the local attorney who was the head of one of the leading leading legal families in Cape Girardeau, to specifically run for the state legislature. And his sole job would be to secure that $250,000 in state appropriations. And it all has to happen really quickly because the fire breaks out. Academic burns in April of 1902, right about this time. It's like the first week in April. So within a few months, R.B. Oliver is elected that fall to the legislature, and he is successful in securing those funds. So there for a time, between 1903 and 1905, you have the construction of Academic going on. Carnahan is being completed, and the art building is being completed. It's pretty busy up there on the hill, and the physical plant, the power plant, is constructed at roughly the same time.
So R.B. Oliver's whole purpose was to make sure that the university could get that money to build Academic, and an amount of money that at the time, I don't know what it would be in today's dollars, but huge.
It was, and you're exactly right. That was his sole focus, and after that was secure, then he retired from politics, more or less. But it took a lot of arm twisting and a lot of codgeling and a lot of deal making, but it worked. And then the actual physical construction of academic is a magnificent story, because it is the product, that beacon of education in this part of the world. It's the product of 4 very powerful personalities. You have Houck, who is more or less running the business side of it. You have President Dearmont, who's overseeing the academic aspects. And then you have J.B. Legg, who is the architect designing it, and Edward Regenhart, the physical builder, the contractor. And I said these are outsized personalities. It makes me chuckle, because Houck is about 5'2", Regenhart's 6'6", almost 300 pounds. So that's the long and the short of it. But over the 2 years that they built it and this comes together, it's really by the force of will of those 4 men.
And Academic Hall stands to this day the symbol of this institution.
It's exactly as Houck imagined it, that you would see it up here from the river, which was the front door to the town before the highways were built. So that was where people came and went from to Cape Girardeau. So you could see it, and it would stand as a monument to higher education. And I talked about those years that Houck is president of the Board of Regents and Dearmont is the president. That's the first 2 decades of the 20th century. So the physical size of the university increases dramatically. Go from 1 building, old academic, to 6 buildings by 1920. The student body probably quadruples, maybe a little bit more, and we make that fateful transition away from simply a normal school, just training teachers, to a state college with a 4-year liberal arts curriculum. So pretty impressive accomplishments there.
We got about 30 seconds, but a grand building that really, so Houck knew, he was right.
He was exactly right, and he got some pushback, at least initially, and there, sometimes the conversations got heated and actually broke out into violence periodically.
Wow.
But and the crowning jewel is Houck then goes to the World's Fair and he acquires all the mantles and the light fixtures and brings them down here to populate the new academic hall.
Now, I knew we'd run out of time, and we have, but Joel, this has been very interesting. Thanks very much for joining us.
You bet. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Focus on Southeast is a collaboration of KRCU Public Radio and the Department of Mass Media here at Southeast Missouri State University. Just a reminder that portions of these conversations will be broadcast on KRCU Public Radio and will be available online at krcu.org and on the station's YouTube channel. From the Rest Center for Media, I'm Dan Woods. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to tune in next time when we focus on Southeast.